So I've been putting this project off for a bit, and the reason for that is I really have no idea what I'm doing, but I've gotten a few comments both here and other places I've posted my videos, and people want to see me try and make these two boxes into one larger box. So that's what I'll be attempting here today on Ricky Does It. So first off, I want to make it very clear that I have no idea what I'm doing here. Absolutely none whatsoever. So I'm not responsible if you decide to cut up your boxes or if you do put them together and it suddenly falls apart on you. This is just an experiment to see if I can does it. So with that out of the way, let's get started. First off, I know that when the box is done, I want Secret Wars Volume 1 to be on top of Secret Wars Volume 2. So it should end up looking something like this. That means this is the part I need to remove. So I'm going to take a pencil and mark those with an X so I know which sides to cut. So if that's the top, this will be the bottom. So again, I want to mark the sides I need to remove. Now, as you may or may not know, the way most game boxes are assembled is you take a thin piece of cardboard, fold up the sides, and then wrap it in a sheet of printed paper which is glued down and folded over the edges. So they're not really major constructions to begin with. So what I plan to do, since I can't wrap the outside with paper, is simulate that on the inside. I'm going to cut a sheet of cardboard to glue across the bottoms of both boxes, and then cut strips of poster board to glue along these outer walls, and I'm hoping that's enough to keep it together. But before I can do that, I have to gut these babies with a butter knife. Now you can see there's a strip of glue here that I should be able to scrape off easily enough. And yeah, it's not pretty, but this is the side I'll be covering up anyhow. And now the other side, I could leave it, but I really want a nice flat surface for when I glue down my strips. And now box number 2. That's funny, these were glued up and down while the other one was glued sideways. And I guess that just goes to show this isn't rocket science, it's just cardboard and glue. And that's it for that. So now I'm going to take out the sides that have the X. What I'm going to actually do is cut about a ½ inch just inside the edges, then cut diagonally to the corners. That way these flaps will come out and I'll be able to cut along the bottom real nice with my straight edge. And on the sides, I'll really just be cutting paper. And now I'm going to cut diagonally to the corners. And now I have my flaps. You can see here the paper kind of bunches up now that it's folded down, so I'm going to see if I can get this off before I make this cut. Ah, just like butter. Waka waka. So like I said before, the corners are now nothing but paper, so that's going to come off real easy. And the other side. And now for the bottom flap. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Not perfect, but what is in this world? Now I just gotta do that 3 more times. So, I already messed up. You see, this is the bottom for Secret Wars Volume 2, but I wanted Volume 1 to be above Volume 2. So if this is Volume 2, that's going to be here, and since I've already cut this side, that means the tops and bottoms are going to be mismatched. Unless... I could always put them like this, and then have the tops like this. Let me see. This is how I originally wanted it, but actually, I think there's something very cool about this. Yeah, I think I'm going to do it this way. Rock and roll. So I just went ahead and erased my old marks and made some new X's, so let's cut out the rest of these sides. Honestly, I'm kind of wishing I had gotten some new blades before I started, because I feel like this should be cutting a bit easier than it is. But for now, I just gotta make it work. So now, again with the flaps, and this time I'm just gonna slice it where the paper bunches. And here's our bottom flap, and there you have it, the 2 bottom halves of our new box. And yeah, the edges are a little jaggedy, but I'm thinking the wood glue should fill up any little gaps nicely. So now I need a piece of cardboard that'll cover this whole bottom. First I'm going to take some masking tape and attach these two together, just so it doesn't fall apart as I'm trying to measure. I honestly shot a good hour's worth of video last night where I didn't tape before I measured, and everything just went off the rails. So here we have 12 inches and another 2 7/8, so that's 14 7/8 inches long. And for the width, I'm going to go with 11 3/16. Now what I have here is just one of those display boards you would use for like a science fair, and I'm going to make sure that the grain is going this way, along the length of the bottom of the box, since it has that split down the middle. You can see here the grain is going lengthwise, and when I put some pressure on, it holds up. But if I go like this, it bends real quick. So I want to make sure the corrugation adds a little extra strength to the bottom of the box when I'm carrying around 10 pounds of cards. So it looks like the only clean edge we have here is on the bottom, so I'm going to start measuring and cutting from there. I'm also using a paper cutter for the shorter cuts, just so I get some nice clean corners. So let's fit this sucker. Fingers crossed. And it fits like a glove. So now I need strips for the sides, and for that I'm just going to use plain old poster board. I mean, if the corners of these boxes are just held together with glue and paper, how is this any different? So I already know the length is 14 7/8, and for the height, I'm going to go with 2.5 inches. So here I'll just measure and cut out both strips at the same time. So let's see how these fit. Nice. Very, very nice. And now we deal with the tops. I gotta say, cutting the wrong side earlier was really a happy mistake, because I like them much better this way. So here I got the correct sides marked, so let's just get them gone. Now I should note, I did run out and pick up some new blades for my cutter, and things are going much more smoothly. So it's like I'm sure I heard someone say at some point in my life, you take care of your tools and they'll take care of you. Now we tape these guys up, and since this is the top half, I want to make sure that the bottom still fits nicely inside. So I'm just going to add a single thin strip to go along where the two halves meet. I figure since it's only the lid, there's no real load bearing involved, so that should really be enough. Again, fingers crossed. So I'm going to go up 2 3/4 on the sides and, well, this doesn't fit. So baby ruler comes to the rescue. Ain't he adorable? So that's 6 inches plus 5 3/8, so that's 11 3/8, which means I'll end up with a strip that looks something like this. So I'm cutting this from the same poster board I used before, and I'm just going to make it 2 inches wide because that's the width of my ruler. Now you may be wondering, if I'm just going to use a thin strip here, why don't I just use some kind of tape? Well, I'm hoping that when I apply the glue, it'll get into the cracks here and help keep it together that way too. Now I'm going to measure out the sides and get them bent over, and when I glue this together, it's going to be nice and flat. And yeah, I think this is going to work. So it looks like we're ready to start assembling. But I want to take a moment and talk about these side strips. I honestly had no idea how I'd keep them clamped to the sides during the drying process, since I know how easily glue can make paper curl up. Now I'm not going to bore you with all the options I considered, but in the end, I came up with these ridiculous things. And here's how I made them. I took a piece of cardboard, then I cut a bunch of these in half, glued them down. Now when this is clamped, that edge will be pushing against these vertical slats, which will then push against these longer slats. Now maybe there's an easier way to do this if you have real tools, supplies, and actual know-how, but all I got is big dreams, binder clips, and rainbow popsicle sticks. So there you go. Maybe not the most elegant solution, but I think these will do a good job of covering a lot of surface area and keeping the pressure on. So okay, let's get to gluing. Now this is just regular wood glue, Elmer's wood glue. I've seen it do some amazing jobs keeping wood together, so why not cardboard? Like I said, I want to make sure this gets in the cracks real good, then I just want to cover everything. It's not really spreading as nicely as I like, and I think the cardboard is kind of absorbing the glue, but this should still be fine. Let's just get a little more in there, and a little more. Now I'm just going to put a huge X here on the bottom and slip it in. Give it a good press. Now we do have a little leakage here on the back, but that's fine, because it means the glue is filling up those cracks. Just gotta wash the excess off with a damp washcloth, so it all looks as nice as possible. And now I'm going to remove the tape so it doesn't get glued to the bottom. I just want to be real careful that I don't pull off the box art, because that would defeat the whole purpose of this project. So this already lifted up, but we're going to put some weight on it in a minute. Now the way this is going to go is I'll glue the strip down. Then I have a cardboard strip cut down to about the same size, just a little smaller so it doesn't actually get glued down. Then I'll use these ridiculous things to add more pressure when I clip. And I'll have a little guard here on the outside, another cardboard strip, so when I clamp overnight, it won't dent the box. So let's get that going. And here's that curling I was talking about, so I'm thinking these things might not be so ridiculous after all. And now I'm going to make sure I get the glue all up in these cracks, and that's going to really help keep this together. And in goes the strip. Let me remove this tape again so it doesn't get glued down. And here we go. I actually wrapped the middle of this outer guard with packing tape. I'm hoping it'll just peel off the wood glue in case any more leaks out. And this inner board, I'm going to bring it to the top of this strip so that edge is nice and flush. And there you see this side is protected and this side is nice and clamped in. So now let's do the other side. I'm actually going to glue straight onto the box this time, just because I think it'll be easier to lay the strip down. Okay, that's a lot of glue, so let me spread it out. And now I'm gonna just squeegee the excess off with a scrap of cardboard. Now let's get the strip down. And yeah, I think that went a lot smoother. But look here, not sure how well you can see, but there's kind of a peak in the middle where it's lifting from the board. I just really hope that once I have it weighted down, that'll flatten out. But yeah, let's just fly through this part. Get everything clamped up and get some weight on there. For that, how about a little Chronicles of Narnia, some Lord of the Rings, and a binder full of teenage poetry. Gotta be good for something, right? And that's that. Now on to the lid. And I just love this. I think it's so cool looking, and I'm gonna be super happy if this really works. So here, I'm just gonna glue along the middle, and this is basically gonna be like a big strip of tape holding it together. Now I'm not sure how well you can see, but I covered one side of a piece of cardboard with packing tape to hold the strip down while it dries. So if any glue seeps out, it shouldn't stick to the board. And I've done the same with these little squares, which are gonna hold down the sides like that. And again, this is just the lid, so it's not that serious. So yeah, I'm just gonna glue this up, try and get as much into the cracks as possible, and spread it out about 2 inches wide. And I'm also gonna glue up the ends of the strip and get some on the corners, and then I just press it into place and add my cardboard pieces to keep it in place. And now I got a pair of Chinese food dogs, each weighing about 3 pounds, and that's gonna make sure the strip dries out nice and flat. Okay, see you tomorrow. And we're back. It's been about 20 hours, so let's see how this looks. Okay, so these came off easily and nothing stuck, and wow, looks like it's on there pretty well. Let me just put a little pressure on it, and yeah, this is pretty sturdy, nice. And also the center dried out nice and flat. There was a little peak before, but now it's nice and smooth. And now for the piece of resistance. So again, nothing stuck here that wasn't supposed to, so that's really nice. And look at that, pretty sturdy. Same on this side. And oh yeah, that looks beautiful. This was really peaked before, but now you'd never tell. And here's some gentle pressure. And yeah, this is really freaking cool. Now we already know this is 14 7/8 by 11 3/16. And since we're gonna make 4 rows, I'll need 3 walls that are 11 3/16 by 2 and... Okay, I think I just ran into a problem here. For those of you who watched my first video, you know that I cut these rows down to 3.5 inches wide, while the original game dividers are 3 5/8 inches wide. But what I didn't cut down is the height of my dividers, which is about 3 inches. But here you can see, if I put a divider in the box, it's clearly higher than the sides, but I have no intentions of trimming all my dividers again. But, something I do in my other box is use these ledge separators, so when I store the game board inside, it catches on this ledge and doesn't slide around. I can do that because the original box is made taller than the expansion, so it can fit the board inside. So what I'm thinking with this box is I should make the main part 3 inches tall, and then all the outer walls and ledges about 3/8 of an inch taller. And yeah, when I put the lid on, it's not going to go down all the way, but hey, it's still going to look pretty cool. So not only will it hold the board, it'll also keep my dividers from being crushed. So problem solved. Now when I posted my DIY box organizer video, I had a few people asking me about card sleeves, which do not fit in that design. So then I made another video on what if I sleeved all my cards, and found out that I need to use 3 expansion boxes to hold my entire collection if I did sleeve them all. But not everyone has as many cards as I do, so I've decided to make sure sleeve cards can fit in this double box design, as well as the original dividers if that's important to anybody. So as we know, my double box is 14 7/8 inches wide, and if you've studied my other videos, you know that the original dividers and sleeve cards are all 3 5/8 inches wide. So if I want 4 rows, that adds up to 14.5 inches, leaving us 3/8 of an inch. And as we all know, the cardboard I use for my walls is the standard width of 1/8 of an inch, meaning if I use 3 of them, we're right where we need to be. So this should work out perfectly. So first for my outer walls, I'm going to need 8 pieces that are 3 5/8 inches wide by 3 3/8 inches tall. So I'm going to measure out the height, and since we really have no breathing room here, I'm going to use the divider to mark off the widths at exactly 3 5/8. As you can see, I'm cutting the first bit off and then measuring again, because as we all know by now, I'm an insane person. So now we have all the pieces for our outer walls, which are nice and square and even. Now due to a few missteps from which I've kindly spared you, oh viewing audience, I've run out of the cardboard I was using. So all I got now is a random active air conditioner box. I'm not really going to be happy having this on one side of my walls, and I'll probably replace it later, but right now I just want to get this done. So I'm going to need 3 pieces that are 3 3/8 inches tall by 11 3/16 inches wide, or long, whichever makes more sense here. Now I'm going to make sure I cut these walls along the lines of the cardboard so they don't get bent so easily. And yeah, these aren't the prettiest things in the world, but you know, use what you got. So now that we got all the pieces, let's see if we can make them fit. Will you look at that? I can't believe I actually made this work. Now I'm going to fix the outer wall in place with a little double-sided adhesive. This is just an Elmer's permanent tape runner. Now I want all my white sides showing out, and I'm going to mark where they go above the side of the box so I know where to put my tape. And I'll just do that really quick, and that'll just do a better job of keeping everything in place. Now I'm going to see what I need to cut out so my board can rest on top. Let's do the short side first, and it looks like that width is just under 9 inches. So if all my walls are 11 3/16, I'll just make one tab an inch wide and the other 1 3/16. And since I want the inside 3 inches tall, I'm just going to cut down 3/8 of an inch. So let's watch me do that. And of course, when I put these back, I make sure the ledges all match, and there you go. But what about these sides? Well, for that, I'll be making these same kind of ledge pieces, only measured to fit this box. So since the board is 9 5/8 this way, and we know our box is 14 7/8 inches wide, then I'm going to need these tabs to be 2 5/8 inches each. So here's me doing that. And here I have 2 more pieces cut down to 3 5/8 inches wide by 3 inches tall, and that'll just to help space out our rows. And Viola, that board's not going anywhere. So all that's left is to move my collection from this box to this box. Here we go. And yeah, even though I cut all my dividers down to 3 1/2 inches wide, when you have the room, that 1/8 of an inch makes little difference. And just so you can see, here's the 100 cards I sleeved in my video, What If I Sleeved All My Cards, and you can see they fit nicely in the box, as well as the original dividers. But let me get those out of there and get this baby packed up. As you can see, I'll have plenty of room when the new Civil War expansion comes out later this year. So here's my shards and counters, the game board, and that's so nice, and the instructions for the core set, Fantastic Four, Guardians of the Galaxy, Paint the Town Red, Captain America 75th Anniversary, Dark City, and of course Secret Wars Volume 1 and Secret Wars Volume 2. And our custom 2-in-1 box top, isn't that so nice? And it holds perfectly. I mean, it's heavy. And I just noticed the top is a little loose. I guess that's because there's twice the extra lid space that I didn't account for, but it's totally livable. I mean, come on. I had no idea how I'd even do this at first, and it came out better than I could have ever expected. And just one last demonstration, a full 360 flip, and it's perfectly intact. But I do want to say one more time, I'm not one of those box making professionals. I figured this out as I was doing it, so I'm not responsible if you decide to try this and one day it falls apart and all your cards fly out onto the street, you try and cut the boxes and you make the whole thing a mess. This was just an experiment to see if it could be done. That being said, I think this is pretty bitchin'. One thing I would do differently is raise the outer walls and ledges to where they're higher than the board. That way when the lid's on, it doesn't teeter so much. And also, there is a bit of extra room here, so what I do is go back and add cardboard to one or both sides to make it tighter. And when I get more materials, I'll probably do just that. So there you have it, one box made from the Secret Wars Volume 1 and Secret Wars Volume 2 boxes. Thanks for watching! If you like this video, be sure and check out my other Marvel Legendary videos, and make sure you subscribe for all future videos. And why not follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Ricky Does It. That's RICKEY Does It. See you soon!